As bold as lions. As bold as lions.
As bold as lions.
As bold as lions.
You're listening to the As Bold as Lions podcast.
Well, hello and welcome to the As Bold as Lions podcast. Got another great episode for you today. Excited about starting out the month of September and jumping into the fall. It's kind of crazy that we're kind of on the last 4 months of 2024, and just you get into the start of a new year and you have all these plans and you have all these things that are you kind of expect, or maybe some of the things you don't expect, and then before you know it, things are this far along and the summer's over and you're back into school, back into the swing of certain things in the fall. But we know 2024 still has a lot left in it as far as just kind of the national landscape, I guess maybe the global landscape. Lots of things going on. So it's going to be perhaps a bumpy ride, perhaps some things we got to buckle up for, but we know the Lord is in control and we know that He is good. Just a quick couple things at the beginning of this episode. I'm going to get into some content that is connected to a blog that I wrote for September. So, I'll go into that shortly. But after this, notice there were 5 Sundays in September, just kind of in planning out my month, and especially for church and things that I do at church. 5 Sundays means you have 5 services to plan, 5 teams to kind of have ready. And so I had thought of that, and then I thought, well, maybe if there's 5 Sundays, there's 5 Mondays as well. And the podcast usually posts on a Monday. So there are 5 Mondays this month. And I'm hoping to hit a podcast every month, kind of ambitious. Took a week off, gonna get back into it here. This one's kind of a one-off single episode, and then a series that I'm gonna kind of shake the dust off of and go back to. It's probably from a couple years ago that we did some stuff in this series. It was called Profiles in Courage. Pretty sure that was the name, Profiles in Courage. Anyway, every week it looked at a certain Bible character and just kind of looked at their life, maybe one specific story, maybe just kind of the arc of their life. You can go back and go through some podcasts archives and probably find some of those episodes. I want to say we talked about David before, maybe Elijah, Stephen, just various guys that are in there, maybe some gals too. I think actually Esther, I think, is one that I did as well. And just in this series, I just felt like, man, there's some good stuff to go back to. And I was going through the photos in my phone and the camera roll, and sometimes I'll go in and do some graphic designing for a thumbnail for something, or a cover photo. And I had all these cover photos for kind of continuing this series that I never used. And I'm like, man, I should go back into that series and use some of these cover images. So I'll see if they still work. But just kind of wanted to take the rest of September and go into that. I'm not sure what October looks like. I'm not sure what the rest of this year looks like, but I at least know the kind of the next 4 weeks after this will be in that series. I've done things in the past where October has kind of been this hit the brakes, hit pause again, and take the month off. But I kind of did that this summer, so I'm not sure if I'm going to do that in October as I usually do. Take some of October off. I'm not sure. I feel like there's a lot going on that we can definitely sense wherever the Lord's leading, and we can speak into things, but want him to take the wheel, so to speak, on anything that goes on from here. So stay tuned for that. This episode today, though, that you're listening to, like I said, is tied into a blog that just wrote, just kind of hot off the press. Going to post for my website, derekcharlesjohnson.com, and use it as the blog of the month. And just kind of because it's fresh, I felt like, man, I should just record the podcast here pretty quickly because this is all still recently downloaded and ready to go, and my brain doesn't have to think too hard about, oh, what was that point, or what was the connection I was trying to make there. It's all right there, kind of ready to be accessed. I don't know computer terminology, but when you have that memory that's like faster memory, that's like right there, and then you have your kind of storage memory. This is kind of like in the faster memory queue where you can just kind of quickly grab it versus having to go back and find something, that happened 2-3 years ago. And even a couple months ago, if I wrote something a week or two ago, I'd have to kind of go and reread it and be like, okay, this is what I was trying to say. Anyway, yada, yada, going down a rabbit trail. Don't want to waste too much time there. But today's episode is the God whose ways and thoughts are higher. The God whose ways and thoughts are higher. I want to read Isaiah 55, 6-10. That title will make more sense after you hear these verses. And then we'll go into just kind of this topic for today. So it says, seek the Lord while he may be found. Call upon him while he is near. Let the wicked forsake his way and the unrighteous man his thoughts. Let him return to the Lord that he may have compassion on him, and to our God, for he will abundantly pardon. For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord. For as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, my thoughts than your thoughts. Just kind of some background here as I was going into September, finishing out the year here. Just took some time to pause and reflect over this last year. It felt like, a week or two ago, I just needed to kind of have some moments like that where you're just kind of silent before the Lord, listening to the Lord. Not that that's something I just do sporadically. I feel like the need for that is ongoing and all the time, but especially heavy just in the last couple of weeks. And it's been a busy year for, just anything in my life in general, the family things, the ministry I do, the church I'm at, the just personal, my own life. And I don't necessarily get into a lot of that personal stuff on my podcast. From time to time I do. And if you've listened for over weeks or even years of this, months, years, you probably are putting a lot of pieces together just about what my life looks like. And you have a good idea because I probably have shared quite a few things over a course of time. I'm not necessarily one to just share all the time, but you can go into episodes where I've shared my testimony, I've shared different things about my life, and you can kind of put a lot of the pieces together. But I try not to overtalk just about where I'm at, what I'm, myself a lot, unless it's something that I feel like this is helpful for somebody else. Somebody else might need to hear this and points them along the right path or whatever. But just feeling this transition out of summer into the fall is just kind of a good time to just refocus and get some perspective for what the rest of the year looks like, what next year is kind of going to start shaping up to be, already kind of looking at 2025. And from the podcast here that we've been in some kind of heavier topics. We've talked about this stuff that's been on my mind series. We've talked about persecution and where that's at in the American church. We've talked about the possibility of revival, and could that happen anytime soon? What might that even look like? We've talked about the presidential election, kind of the thing on everybody's mind, the thing we're getting inundated with news just constantly about. And just all of this stuff and just kind of bigger topics that are hard to even put into a 30 or 45-minute podcast and really do any quality examining of, because it's just, there's so much there. I'm trying to get as much as I can, but I know I'm just leaving so much that I'm not getting to. So as you get into the weeds of a lot of those things, I just feel personally, at least, it's important for me to keep going to the Lord and not get too caught up in any one of those or other topics and kind of just get, I guess, go sideways, as they say, about things where you start to just really get wrapped up and maybe lose your focus on what truly matters. Because all of those things are important. I'm not to say that we don't talk about those things. We don't go into these weighty things, but we can kind of exhaust ourselves sometimes when we're consumed with that on a regular basis. So just feeling the need to like unplug a little bit, hit reset, rest, hear from the Lord. And so I was led to this passage that I just read from Isaiah 55, 6 through 10. That's where the title comes from. Just the God whose ways and thoughts are higher. It talks about at the end of that, my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are my ways your ways. The heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways, and my thoughts are higher than yours. And this is a promise from God. May not look like that at face value, but it is. And it's actually a passage that I routinely come back to, or it's just something I'm studying or something I'm going through, and it just kind of triggers that kind of phrase of like, his thoughts are higher, his ways are higher, whatever it is I'm going through, he's seeing it from a completely different perspective and vantage point than I am. He's seeing like the whole perspective, I guess is a way to say it. And especially when we're in times where the ways and the thoughts of man have kind of self-elevated to the point of being godlike. I put that in quotes, godlike with a lowercase g. It's good to know that despite whatever we come up with, whatever man thinks of himself, they're still lower and still have to bow and be humbled before the ways and the thoughts and the character of our God. And just a passage like this from Isaiah, the Old Testament, I know you have to be kind of careful to just copy and paste. I've talked about that before, of just, here's something from Old Testament times, let's just bring it right over in the modern day. But I feel like the passage applies kind of at face value for our time right now, and maybe any time throughout history. Just saying that, just realizing, yes, the ways and the thoughts of the Lord are above and beyond our own understanding. And so all that to kind of set this up today as we go into some points, this recent study of this passage has just caused me to reflect upon this God whose ways and his thoughts are higher. And I'm brought into a place where even as I look around and I lack that understanding, I lack the ability to really ascertain and comprehend what's going on, I can still find peace and I can still find rest in him and know that he's got me. And so this gives me a lot of hope, and that's why I'm sharing it. I'm sharing it for those hearers out there who may want to be encouraged as well, who just have that desire for hope in these times as well. And knowing we all just need to kind of encourage each other, iron sharpens iron, that kind of stuff, strive for more, strive for continued deepening and letting our roots go further down in our faith. And just letting the Lord remind us of who he is, especially during these times. So all that being said, we're going to jump right in. And I've got a couple of verses for each of these points, so I'll try to kind of draw those out and then let you know where that all kind of connects. So The first thing I have as I think about this Isaiah 55 passage is just this. It's just run, do not walk to God. Run, do not walk to God. And find him while there's still time. Find him while there's still time. Isaiah 55:6 in this passage says, seek the Lord while he may be found, call upon him while he is near. Another passage that I want to share is Luke 10:41-42. But the Lord answered her, Martha, Martha, you're anxious and troubled about many things, but one thing is necessary. Mary has chosen the good portion, which will not be taken away from her. A little bit more about that in a couple minutes here. So, reading this passage of Isaiah, coming back to it this most recent time of study and just kind of reflection, there was almost an urgency that I felt in my own spirit about specifically this verse, verse 6, seek the Lord while he may be found. I think we have perhaps a window of time in which the Lord is going to bless and shine and show his face upon us. And I think that's, not something that's kind of mysterious, because that window is perhaps just our own time on this earth. It might be just boiling down to say the window of opportunity is our days and our weeks and months and years that we have on this earth, that we have left. And as simple as that sounds, I know I spend, and I'm guessing collectively we can say we spend a good deal of time not being intentional about seeking his presence, not going to that place, and not calling upon his name, where it says, seek the Lord while he may be found, call upon him while he is near. I'm not doing that like I should anyway. And even just sitting down and reflecting on all this was just kind of this just eye-opening thing that the Lord just showed me. And naturally I fall into these patterns where I'm closer for a while. I feel like I'm where I should be, and then there's this distance where I grow apart from the word, and I grow apart from prayer, and not have just that close proximity that I'd like to have all the time. And I can blame it on things. I can blame it on my year with just kind of twists and turns and different things happening. Most of it just good stuff, but that busyness has sometimes just caused me to use that as an excuse to say, well, I'm just too busy to seek the Lord like I should. I'm too busy to turn to him. And just realizing no, that's just an excuse. That's really all that is that he still needs to be something that's my first priority. He's something that I need to run to. So reading this passage, I just kind of started journaling some thoughts, and really led to the content for the blog and the content that I've scripted out and presenting here for this podcast episode. And I just realized that I needed to slow down. I need to rest before this next season of life, whatever that brings. I need to respond to his call, which is just sit at my feet, just come and rest. And that Mary and Martha verse that I shared, I need to exhibit more Mary right now and less Martha. And that's all from Luke 10, where basically the premise is Martha is doing and busy, and Mary is just resting in the presence of Jesus. And Martha complains to Jesus like, hey, I need help. I'm doing all the housework. I'm doing all the chores, the food prep, the cleanup, whatever. I need her to help me. And Jesus is like, you're anxious about all this stuff, the verses I read, but one thing's necessary. Mary has chosen that good portion, and it's not going to be taken away from her. She's chosen to just rest in my presence rather than just being busy doing. And I think for a lot of us, like, we feel like if we're not busy and doing and kind of checking boxes off, especially in our Christian faith, then are we really showing that we have faith? Are we really living it? And sometimes God's saying, hey, I just want you. I just want your heart. I'm not all about the stuff that you can do. I mean, that should be outpouring, and that should be something that we exhibit. But I want you and just your attention. Just my year, just the few things that I'd share. Just had a son who graduated from high school. Had the same son that then went to college and got him established this year, and that was a huge life change transition that we're still in for me, my wife, for our family, that we're all kind of like figuring it out as we go. And then the summer was busy. The summer was trips and activities, different things at our church, seeing family. And then just in terms of my role at church, some of that switching and what I do every week with worship. And so all of that coupled with just a family that's growing and that every day is changing little by little, and just trying to stay on top of that, stay ahead of that, and be like, okay, God, I'm trying to do the best with what you've given me to steward and to lead well. Push it all aside. It all means that what I need is more time in his presence. What I need is more just seeking after him, so that I can then be poured out for those things that I need to do. So that's the first thing I have to say from Isaiah 55 is to run, don't walk to God. Get into his presence, find him while there is time. Second thing I have is we can turn from our sinful ways and find compassion and pardon for our sin. Turn from our sinful ways, find his compassion, find his pardon. That's Isaiah 55, verse 7. Let him, which is the wicked, return to the Lord, that he may have compassion on him, and to our God, for he will abundantly pardon. And 2 Peter 3, verse 10 states, but the day of the Lord will come like a thief, and then the heavens will pass away with a roar, and the heavenly bodies will be burned up and dissolved, and the earth and the works that are done on it will be exposed. I take hope that the God I serve is abundantly gracious and merciful. But I also know at some point judgment is going to come. The earth will be burned up. It says that earth and heaven will pass away. And he's going to make all things new. And as I expressed kind of that urgency in the first point of like, seek the Lord while he may be found, run to his presence. There's some urgency here as well to just be in right relationship before God, and not to be caught up in anything that's sinful or just meaningless, I guess, in some ways. That I need to be like centered upon him and not distracted. There is mercy available. He's a compassionate God. He's slow to anger, abounding in love. That's Psalm 103, verse 8. And Isaiah just plainly says it this way: he will abundantly pardon. I love that. Again, just talking about that window. The window we have for turning to the Lord is also the window we have for others to come to know him. And that may just be the whole course of our lives. That's the window of time that we have. But that time is just a breath. It's a vapor, a mist. And we have such a short period of time. And even as I look at the rest of this year and start looking at next year and beyond, I do all of that knowing at any moment he could return, or at any moment my life could be asked of me, and I don't have tomorrow. It's not promised. So that short window of time that we do have should compel us to share our faith, to not hold back what is life-saving for anyone else who does not know Jesus Christ. And really, this verse in Isaiah, if we understand and we've come to know his compassion and have his pardon, that's a place we want to remain in as Christians. We want to stay in fellowship with other believers. We want to keep challenging each other and just our walk of holiness before the Lord, and to be convicted of any sin. But it's really something that we express to the world as well. Like, God will forgive your sin. He will wash you. He will cleanse you. He wants to do that. And where we have the opportunity to speak that over people in our lives, we should be taking those opportunities. We should be taking the time to have those conversations, because we know the days are evil. The days are short, as we end each podcast sharing that verse from Ephesians. So the final thing I have today, hopefully you're tracking with me. We're running to the presence of the Lord. We're finding Him while He is there, and while there's time. We're turning from anything that would hold us back, anything sinful, and we're sharing our faith. The last thing is that we have to trust God knows what He's doing. And this kind of ties into our overarching theme and title of all of this. And this is verse 9 from Isaiah 55. For as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts. And then Psalm 33:11, but the plans of the Lord stand firm forever, the purposes of His heart through all generations. So coming into the fall, slowing down a little bit, despite kind of being on still a busy schedule, I've come to the realization that, or at least the reminder that God knows what He's doing. Through the ups and downs of life, the day-to-day kind of highs and lows, I can trust Him. He sees the long view, like I said before about that perspective. He sees the total perspective of kind of from every angle, top, bottom, left, right, all of it. And He knows what's beyond the mountain that's in front of me right now, and the mountain that's after that, and the mountain that's after that, and just on and on. He knows what's coming. Why? Because He has, again, this perspective over it all. He oversees everything. And so my ability to trust Him despite what I cannot see is a central aspect to my faith, and to our faith, that we have to daily surrender that to Him, give that over to Him. My desire to take the wheel, God, my desire to know what's going to happen and all the uncertainty in this world, know what the election's going to be like, what dealing with persecution, dealing with the economy, dealing with, basic elements of survival, food, water, clothing, all those things. I want to know, God, because, this is all stressful stuff. But we have to give that all to Him and surrender it. And that's really where our faith comes into play of knowing that I can take the next step without knowing exactly what's beyond that. Life doesn't stand still. Time just keeps moving. And even as we enter new seasons, literally new seasons, we go from the summer to the fall, the winter, whatever, we go through those things, and we go into new things as individuals, as families, and as a nation. And we're not entering waters that are uncharted for the Lord. Even as we enter what's new for us, it's not new for Him. So we keep coming back to that place of rest and renewal, to commit the future to Him. He knows that our minds and our hearts couldn't adequately absorb or take in all of it if we were given a glimpse behind the veil to see it all. Honestly, I as much as I say I'd like to see it and like to know, I couldn't fathom it all. And He knows that. And that's a gracious, loving, good Father who says, I'm just going to show you what you need today. And tomorrow will take care of itself. And when tomorrow comes, I will show you what you need for that day. And that's the kind of God that we serve. And that's the relationship that He wants with us. The step-by-step, trust and obey all along the way with Him. Hopefully all that is hitting and making sense for you. I know as I've unpacked this passage, it's just kind of been, man, I know all this, God, but this is new again as well. It's like the light bulb's on, but it's been on but kind of dim the whole time, and now it's brighter, and it's finally it's hitting again, where I'm just understanding what you're saying to me at this very moment, this point in time. I will end saying a couple things. And even though we don't see everything, I think God's giving us glimpses into a lot of what He's doing right now. And he's showing us a lot that if we have that discernment, if we have kind of that spiritual eyes to see, walking in the Holy Spirit, getting into the holy place with him, the secret place with him, and we ask about it, like, God, help me to see more of what's going on and understand, give me insight. He's doing that. He's showing that to people. And that's something that I hunger for myself, and perhaps you do as well. This last year, I see God moving, I see him active, and this last year has given me hope, even though we're living in this time where it seems like evil is just everywhere. The hand of God is that much greater. He's over all of it. He's setting captives free. He's those who are turning to him, or the prodigals that are coming home, they're finding his compassion that we talked about. They're getting that pardon. His love is being poured out. And it's such a contrast to all the hate, to all the violence, all the vitriol that is in this world. The love of Christ just shows that much more and is that much brighter on display. And if we seek the Lord during this time, getting into that quiet place, he will be found. And just as an aside to this kind of ending point, if you're struggling with some of that, just taking a little bit of time and just turning off your phone, turning off anything around you. And maybe it's just pulling the door into your bedroom closet shut and just sitting in there, whether there's a light on or not. Maybe you do have a light, because I'm a journaler, so I like to just, he drops something in my mind and I'm writing it down, testing it against scripture. There's times where he puts a verse in my head, and then I go look it up and I'm like, wow, that's exactly what I needed. And a lot of what I'm just sharing today is through that type of an encounter, which I believe we can have access, and even fuller access to, if we're willing to spend the time in his presence, because he wants to share things with us. A lot of times we don't receive because we don't ask and we don't spend the time seeking it. Very last thing I have is, if you're coming into a season of rest, if you're feeling like, pumping the brakes, and this is where I'm kind of coming into as well, because the whole year's been crazy, the summer's been busy, and I just feel like I need that. I would just encourage you and say, let that time refuel you, let it equip you, so that you're then ready to re-engage coming out of it. After a busy year so far, and just a really quick summer, it felt like it just went so fast. I'm just in this place where I'm like, God, just refresh me, speak over me, let me see what you want to see, be with my family and I, as we're in kind of a different stage of life, to help keep me navigating that well. And I just need to be that Mary in his presence and allow him to speak. And a lot of that isn't just like for this time only. It's ongoing. It's things that we continue to seek and we continue to strive for. It's like, I don't want to just have these seasons where I'm close and I'm restful, but I'm always incorporating some of that. But then as you come out of that, you're getting prepared for what is to come, and that you then indeed need to move forward when the next season, when this closes and the next season starts. So may we come prepared for the move that God's going to do in our day, in our lifetime. May we be expectant for even more. That's my encouragement to you guys today. And as always, I love having the opportunity to share these blogs, to share these podcasts, devotionals. Just as an aside, if you're not on my email list and you want to get blogs and devotions to your email, you can sign up at DerekCharlesJohnson.com. Go to the As Bold as Lions tab. I'm also going to start posting some of my devotions back on YouTube, kind of trying to kickstart that back up. And so Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays, you can go and get a kind of a couple 2.5 minute encouragement for your day on those days. So Guys, I love you, love walking the journey with you. And if there's anything I can pray for, I would encourage you to email me, connect in some way. info@DerekCharlesJohnson.com is probably the best way to do that. And I get stuff from all over. I'll wake up and see an email from Africa or England or New York or wherever. And it's just crazy to me that the sound of my voice or the keystrokes on the keyboard end up in front of somebody else's, their ears, their eyes, whatever. And the Holy Spirit is using it. It's not me. And so I will definitely do my diligence to respond and pray for you as well. So I'd encourage you for that. I'm going to leave you with our theme verse, Ephesians 5:15-17, talking about these days that we're living in and knowing that he's good even as we go through them. Be very careful then how you live, not as unwise, but as wise, making the most of every opportunity because the days are evil. Therefore, do not be foolish, but understand what the Lord's will is. Guys, take care. We'll see you again next week.
Hey guys, this is Derek Charles Johnson. You have been listening to the As Bold as Lions podcast. I am a blogger, a songwriter, an artist. And if you've been encouraged by this podcast, please go ahead and subscribe and share. And head over to DerekCharlesJohnson.com for more encouraging content. God bless.